So, we finally reached the big one. And where there's legends, there's diversity. Something an Academy of High Achievers will take on board to judge the next timeless piece. Legendary Pokemon started with a few simple concepts, countering elements with one bird being weak to the other two, and having a type advantage over all of them. Pokequality, as well as the ancestor of all who eventually caused the birth of a vanilla scoop, along with the big boss who can't overcome an ordinary man blocking its cave. Typically, you'll see one of a kind in many different places, and many out of their natural habitats. So through the legends they tell and the tomorrow they spring, I shall share my criteria for this list. Okay, one per legendary group, just like I did one per evolution. For example, if Kyogre is on there, then neither Rayquaza nor Groudon can touch the list. Also, this is based on personal preference and not how useful they are in battle. Although I've mentioned how many times they should be used, but that's just the tutorial section. So, let's end this with a bang. Actually, no, explosion is a better word. Explosion! Dig! And now introducing one of the gummiest Pokemon in history, Rayquaza. Rayquaza's a weird one because on one side it's more beastly, and on the other it's a commander of some sorts, telling Groudon and Kyogre to shut the fuck up so they can go back to sleep. It's always great to include a serpent or two, and to combine elegant green or shiny black with a bit of authority is a given. It generally gets more of a role in the games whilst actually standing on its own 2 feet, whilst Groudon and Kyogre are susceptible to resisting arrest. And then the Mega makes it look like a flying ant, with reins to be able to ride it without any repercussions. Just to give you an idea of how strong Rayquaza is in battle. Fair enough, base Rayquaza, that's one thing. Mega Rayquaza is anything goes only. And this is because Mega Rayquaza is the only Mega Pokemon that can evolve without any Mega Stone, as long as you have the move Dragon Ascent to back it up. So that means you can give it a Life Orb to give it even more firepower whilst its stats plow into you. This is partly why I stopped looking for online battles for a while, because everybody was using it. So the most favoured strategy is a Mix Quasar, as it's called, harboring Draco Meteor, Earthquake or Fire Blast, Dragon Ascent as I've just mentioned, and Extreme Speed or Earthquake. Oh yeah, I should mention that Delta Stream makes any attacks that are strong against flying do normal damage, which is why the only attacks that are effective against it are Dragon and Fairy moves. So yeah, Mega Rayquaza looks cool, but you don't get any brownie points for using it. Use it by all means, you just don't get brownies. So Rayquaza belongs to the Weather Trio. They represent the 3 major components of the Earth. The Hydrosphere, the Lithosphere, if I've said that right, and the Atmosphere, which is Rayquaza, hence it breathing in space, I think, maybe. Don't know how that makes sense. So they are the ones who shape the entire land and sea. So you got Groudon and Kyogre, who are like, my place is better, no, east side is the best. While Rayquaza is just a Jeremy Kyle who says, shut up, I'm talking here. Alright, let's get Deoxys on the show, ladies and gentlemen. So it's never touched the ground, apparently. It feeds on water and particles in the atmosphere. That is so disturbing. Can you just imagine a picture of that? So its existence has been completely unknown because it lived so high in the sky. Is that a bird? Is it a plane? How should I know? But it looks like a meteor when it flies. It's a funny prank he plays on the natives. So whilst Kyogre is based off the Leviathan and Groudon is based off the Behemoth from Hebrew legends, Rayquaza is based on the Ziz. The Ziz. It's basically a giant griffin-like bird in Jewish mythology, large enough to block out the sun with its wingspan. It can develop some inspiration from the Asian dragon and lindworm. He also matches the description of the Aztec god. Press play.
Quetzalcoatl.
I'm not saying that. He created the boundary between the earth and the sky. He feasted on particles, except methane probably, and that's it. No! An atheist's worst nightmare. Arceus. I want to say Arceus, because I'm an arse man.
Oh my.
I felt torn between including Arceus or not, because it can arguably be the most powerful Pokemon in existence, if used correctly, and is practically God, meaning that including it here can mean picking it because it's God. Well, no, okay, not really. It has the nice white body to represent God's beard and his dashing robe, but we're not talking about Zeus, are we? Its appearance is very unique in relation to what it's based on, and that isn't worth forgetting. Okay, it may not be as strong as Rayquaza now, or some other Pokemon that have also gained Mega Forms, but it is incredibly versatile with 120 stats all across the board, distributed. Generally, you want to focus on its attack stat more than its special attack stat, or you don't have to. But from what is recommended here, a Life Orb giving it that extra boost. It doesn't really need any plate attached to it. Its normal form works just fine. So you have Swords Dance to increase that attack stat, Extreme Speed, because that's just a great move all on its own, Shadow Claw or Stone Edge, and then Earthquake. It is the creator of the Pokemon universe, born of an egg in the chaos at the beginning. Its powers were awakened immediately, and from itself, it made time and space, matter and antimatter, and set Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina to guard them. Created spirits, in the form of knowledge, emotion, and willpower, and through that, it has the highest base stat total of any mythical Pokemon. So if you thought it was just a quadrupedal, nope, it has 1,000 arms. So it's like a less brutal version of Lucy from Elfin Lied. And it was born before the universe even existed. So it's based on a created deity, if that wasn't obvious enough. Its stance is similar to an Egyptian bull and calf idols, particularly Apis, or Apis, maybe modeled after a horse, specifically not a Trojan one. No, Dusty, I'm not interested. I am not interested one bit. And instead of just being based on a single god, it might be influenced by multiple gods, especially the Shinto concept I explained earlier, as well as Quillin, a Chinese mythical creature. I get it. Just stop purring. Stop. Also, its myth is nearly identical to that of the Pingu. Also inspired by the Botswana tapioca as part of Buddhism. 11 heads and 1,000 arms, as mentioned in Arceus' Pokedex entry. Or in a white 4-armed manifestation.
Oith!
Roaming the land, appearing to the gifted or by accident. Suicune. For a Pokemon who looks like it has a jellyfish on its back, Suicune is most elegant, isn't it? Actually, a jellyfish is as well, in a weird way. A masochistic way. All 3 legendary cats who bark like a dog, they are Pokemon, not cats or dogs, have their own unique ways of appearing to the world. Raikou, or Raikou, I think it's Ragu, who's more of a rogue than the other 2. Entei, who stands proud, and Suicune, who has more of a seeker look to it, like it's looking for something. All I can say is that I like the design out of it best, out of all 3. Suicune is the first Pokemon out of this list to be listed in the underused tier. So put leftovers on it, and have Roar, even though Suicune looks like the least threatening out of the 3, unless you're scared of whips. Skull for that burnage, Rest, and Sleep Talk or Calm Mind. So for the legendary beasts and the tower duo, Lugia and Ho-Oh, apparently lightning struck the brass tower. No one knows what caused the striking, although I might have a few ideas. And whilst the fire was taking place, these 3 Pokemon were trapped in the brass tower. They died and were revived by the power of Ho-Oh, and because of their great power, they roam across the land. So I guess only a weakling can stay at home. One theory out there speculates that these Pokemon are actually Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon that have been resurrected. I don't know. They could have been the same beforehand. But I mean, would they exist before this event happening? Because this is the first you hear of these 3 Pokemon. But more than one of these Pokemon exists at a time, which is why you see multiples in each game. A new Entei is born every time a new volcano is formed, Raikou is born out of lightning, and Suicune is born out of north winds. It's the Pokemon that can instantly purify filthy or murky water, which is why we'll need it in a new Fallout game, or as DLC to Fallout 4. North winds will somehow blow whenever it appears. Nah, that's just a fan on the side of the stage to give it more presence. It blows around the world, you might want to choose your wording a bit more carefully there, and it's in search of a pure reservoir. Well, if it can purify water already, then it's found it. It embodies the compassion of a pure spring of water. Not bottled water, because that signifies complete impurity, as you have to pay for it. Another Quillin or Kirin from a deity of mythological beings, which has traits of Chinese dragons, unicorns, deer, big cats, and other beasts. But generally, people say that they bark, but if you listen to them in Pokemon Stadium 2, they sound more like cats than they do dogs. Especially Entei, that lets out a roar rather than a bark. Which goes to show that they're not supposed to be based on either cats or dogs, they're supposed to be just beasts in their entirety. Which physically, Suicune would be based on more of a leopard, Raikou on more of a saber-toothed tiger, and Entei on a lion. And yeah, it's based on the Shinto god of the North Wind, Fujin, sort of. Well, paying homage. Maybe, maybe not. As well as resembling a northern aurora. Again, these are all speculations, but it's nice to look at the ideas that other people share, because I'm a thief. Scythe! The best Pokemon to dream of catching under the moonlight sky? Darkrai! Darkrai is that Pokemon you originally thought to be a ghost type, but were dead wrong. Or at least I was. To hear that it is in fact a dark type with more of a unique role than Cresselia. So you can imagine that it represents everything that incurs nightmares, shadows, the rest of it, whilst also looking kind of like an elf. And wearing Rayquaza's teeth as an accessory. It's that Pokemon you don't really want staring at you, because you don't know what it's thinking. Look at that one eye. So whilst it has the concept of nightmares embroidered into it, Darkrai possesses a unique ability known as Bad Dreams, which means that a Pokemon suffers damage when it's asleep, whilst Darkrai is in battle. With this at your side, most of Darkrai's strategies are no-brainers, and hence why it's in the Uber strategy, because putting that special attack and speed to great use, you'll have a Life Orb attached, with Dark Void to put the opponent to sleep, generally having more accuracy than most other sleep moves, Dark Pulse to complement its stab, Nasty Plot to enhance itself whilst the Pokemon is still having a tough time. You can include Thunder in there, or Sludge Bomb. So yes, Darkrai is a part of what they call the Lunar Duo, representing the new moon, which is the cause of the darkest nights and bringer of nightmares. I wish that was true for me. While Cresselia represents the crescent moon, a sign of hope and good dreams. Boring. Normally I don't like including the anime in these lists because the anime isn't too canon to the video games, so it's not completely reliable. But I think it is worth mentioning that Darkrai is quite a misunderstood Pokemon, because it represents nightmares, but seems like it's something it can't help. Well, that is actually in the Pokedex entry, because firstly, it can lull people to sleep and make them dream, active during nights of the new moon, eat your heart out moon presents. That's from Bloodborne, a game that you probably haven't played. It'll make people see horrific nightmares. No harm done, it's just a dream, you know? It doesn't really mean any harm, it's just to protect itself. Because hell, imagine if you were being bullied and you had the ability to make someone see a nightmare. Wouldn't that put them off the idea of bullying altogether? Or make them see illusions? It sounds sick and twisted, but he's bullying you. Anything goes. So it's a bit of a controversial Pokemon. It resembles a shadow, it looks like a genie, or the boogeyman, as well as being based on the concept of Morpheus, the Greek god responsible for shaping dreams, so the Matrix never happened. The red pill was also a lie. It's based on Phobiter, and Oneiroi being the personification of nightmares. I don't know what any of those words mean. Brothers of Hypnos is Oneiroi. It's one of the Oneiroi there, being the personification of dreaming. It's a bit extra to throw into the whole mix of Generation 4, having a hell of a lot of legendaries. Quick! Ever had a bad thought about extraterrestrials and their tentacles? Here's Deoxys. Deoxys isn't that special in folklore terms, but it was the first legendary to start acquiring different forms, and it remains special partly due to that reason. It embodies all those things you love from the thing when it comes to shapeshifting. Okay, maybe not forming a spider out of a faux decapitated head, but it's the right kind of red with battle styles to suit your playstyle. You got the normal Deoxys, which is, well, it's just normal. The attack form Deoxys, which has got more of a speedy look to it, more than the speed form. Well, no, not really, but still looks kind of speedy. Then you've got the defense form Deoxys, which is very reminiscent to the Juggernaut. So each form caters to different stats. Normal form caters to its attack stats and its speed. Attack form even more to its attack stats and also speed. Defense form more to its defense and slightly speed, but also attack as well. And then the speed form, which generally could be the most favored as its defenses and attack stats are pretty okay rounded. It's just its HP you have to watch out for. So if you want to go with a normal form for a bit of fun battling rather than just trying to own your opponent, you want Psycho Boost, Spikes, Taunt, Encounter, or Superpower. As for the attack form, which is actually no slouch as described, you want a Life Orb or a Focus Sash, because it has really, really frail defenses. So you have Psycho Boost, Superpower or Low Kick, Knock Off or Ice Beam, and Extreme Speed or Knock Off or Hidden Power Fire. So as long as you've got Psycho Boost properly set up, you should be good to go. As for its defense form, which brings more into its stats, with some mysterious 90 speed, okay, give it Spikes, Recover, Skill Swap, and Toxic or Ice Beam. And then you get Deoxys Speed, which would personally be my favorite to go with. Having a Focus Sash and being an entry hazard. Setting up Stealth Rock with Taunt, Spikes, and Knockoff or Skill Swap. Okay, Deoxys is a virus from space which mutated when shot by a laser. It was the first mythical Pokemon known to change form. And that's pretty much all you need to know about it. It's an alien. It's really strong because it's like an intergalactic war machine. Bob's your uncle. However, what's interesting is that its brain isn't in its head. It's actually the crystalline organ on its chest. Now you know where to shoot it. It emerged from a virus that came from space, which is probably why it can harvest all those rocks and take whatever form it wants. Sort of. 4 forms. But just like Iron Man, it shoots lasers from its crystalline organ on its chest. It can also fool enemies by altering its appearance. So it can draw inspiration from certain representations of aliens and visual representations of the DNA double helix, as well as viruses and mutation, as its name itself is an abbreviation of deoxyribonucleic acid. There you go. I had to say that monotonously just to try and focus on what I was actually saying.